Hello, 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 hello. Once again, thank you for watching my channel. My name is Ketley Charles. I really appreciate you guys watching. You guys have been watching, and I do receive email as well from you guys. Thank you so much for watching this channel. Today, we're going to give a brief comparison of poverty in the state versus poverty in the third world. I cannot speak 100% on it, but because I am from the Caribbean, and of course because I am very aware of what goes on in the world, I have a say so, and perhaps many of you guys can relate to my say so. And I've never lived in Europe. So I cannot really speak on Europe. But per research and per people that have been living in Europe, they also have a few comparisons that they can also attribute to the poverty versus US, or I would say Europe, in comparison to the third world, such as Africa, South America, and of course the Caribbean. We're going to start with poverty in the state. I've lived here over 30 something years, and I was once in the system. You know, I was once part of that statistic. So I can, of course, indeed, make some points or point out a few things. Poverty in the state. We have different types of poverty in the state. But what I want to mainly concentrate on is mother children. But of course, we have different type of poverty. Like I said, I don't know about Europe because I've never lived in Europe. But I will tell you, in the United States, to me, everything in the United States has a A to Z grade. To me, everything in the United States has an A to Z grade level. We have the homeless poverty. Some say they put themselves there. Some say things happen to them. I personally, and you guys can also go on YouTube, you guys will see that. I've seen services, people who have offered services to the homeless, and they would say, not all, especially men, they would say that they would especially during the winter, they would, and I'm speaking for the state of Florida because that's where I've lived most of my life. But in general, poverty in general in the United States, but specifically this section that I'm talking about, the homeless, is the YouTube that I've seen, the documentary that I've seen on it. It was specifically for Duval County, Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. That's where the documentary was taking place. The organization of the shelters, they were pointing out how sometimes it is a mental state where they don't want to be helped. They would go to the shelters to ride out the freezing temperature or the cold weather, and sometimes, most of them, they would find their way back and find them, get them to work, and so that they can get back in society. But some of them, they do not, that's not what they want. They want to be on the street. Now, I don't know how true is that, but per the research that was done, that documentary, in Jacksonville, Florida, Duval County, I watched that. I can say I witnessed that documentary. So, yes, indeed, there are some folks that do not want to be helped. They would come into the shelters, ride the shelters for the winter time, you know, the freezing temperature and all of that, and then you cannot help them. And I also, we were also told that we have a dentist in Jacksonville, Florida, Duval County again, I would say, in downtown Jacksonville. And they, like I said, people who've known him, they say that he's good at what he does. But, you know, of course, it might be a mental issue with mismanagement or financial mismanagement, or God knows, I don't know. But that kind of poverty, that's one poverty that we can also talk about. And of course, we have the mental part, the severe mental, the schizophrenic. They will not stay in the hospital. They, you know, they do not want, and the mental institution they don't hold them on too long anyway. As far as I know, it's not like a long-term facility where they stay there, because they incarcerate them. I mean, not incarcerate. They hold them, you know, they hold them there and give them medication, so forth and so on. But to say that, you know, hold them on a long term, like in a nursing home, where, you know, you're there in a long term. I don't know if it's a financial issue. I don't know what's the issue, but we do have a lot of schizophrenic in Jacksonville, you know, downtown area, where, you know, they're pretty much homeless and of course very poor. And I think these group of people, they should find a way to assist them, you know, build environment, you know, where, you know, with lots of acres and, you know, gated, and of course employee, but you know, all that is money. And you know, the United States is capitalist. If it's not something that they can really make some serious money off of, you know, they're not gonna mind, you know, these people business like that. But yes, we do indeed have a lot of them downtown Jacksonville, you know, of course, wandering around. And now we're going to go to young men between the ages of 20 to 45. You know, the go back and forth in jail, the back and forth into the system. You know, they don't have a place to go, and a lot of the time they cannot find shelter, because I don't think, or I've never heard of a shelter for a man, you know, because often when they get out of jail, I think they always ask them, do they have a family member that they can go to? And of course, you know, if you have a rap sheet, if you cannot get your act together, highly likely, you know, bless your mama's soul and your daddy's soul, they are the one that always, you know, always be available for you to go to. But if you unfortunate where you don't have a mom and dad around, highly likely, you know, brothers and sisters and extended family, you know, it's so much that they can do, you know, after so many help and, you know, blase squaze, they're gonna be fed up with you too, because especially if they have kids, they're gonna be like, I don't need that negativity around my children. And this group of people, of course, they don't, you know, this group of poor people, they, unfortunately, it takes a lot. I really do have a lot of respect. I really do have a lot of respect for a man that messed up and they did an auto analysis inside of themselves, or they did an auto critics, where they, you know, they go into a deep conscious and they feel like, you know, this is not me. I gotta get out of it. I'm gonna get all the little help and resources. You know, they stand strong, they fight the good fight, and they overcome the situation. But you got some, they like, you know, I'm messing up already. I did this, I can't find a job, I can't go to school, blah, blah, blah. And then, few white people in those situations, they will go to Canada and easily, you know, start over again. Or, of course, they go on our continent, and family support them, they go on our continent and live like kings on our continent, you know. But here in the States, and then again in the States, they're white and they're trying to do good. The whole world, the whole white world, is ready to embrace and bring them back to society. But with the black, I think it's even harder, because I don't think that we have a shelter or a place to, embrace our single black men between the age of 20 to 45 when they're screwing up or messing up in life, due to repetitive offenders and, crimes and stuff of all sort. But anyway, now we're going to go to women and children. And that's my biggest concentration, and that's what we're going to be mainly focused on. In the United States, once you're a mother and you have 2, 3, 4, 5 kids, like I did, highly likely you're gonna get a lot of support if you're single mother and you're not working. You have the housing. They will give you a house for your children or a shelter until they can get you in a house. They will, in the house, you have, of course, 24-hour electricity. And of course, they will give you food still. Whereas in the third world country, there's no such help. I cannot speak for Europe, but I was told upon several occasions that Europe is even way better. I don't know how true is that. If you guys are familiar with France, Spain, Italy, Germany, Denmark, Norway, Bad Britain, if you guys are familiar with this group of nations, how they do their social services towards the poor people, I want you guys to write this in the description box, in the comment section, so that you guys can inform me, and so I can research to find out and educate myself, and perhaps come back and educate others. But I was told in those European countries, they even pay you to give birth, because you give birth. And I said, I know they don't give you any money. The only time you get money when you have a child is when the child was born with some kind of mental retardation, physical disadvantage and stuff like that. That's when you do get money for that child. But other than that, unless, of course, if the child, you cannot identify the father, or the father neglected you, or if the father is not in the child's life, then of course you get like, maybe what now, probably $300 per child per month, and maybe $280 food stamp for you to eat as far as food for the kids. So, but the child must not have a father around. Father in his or her life, in order for you to get that public assistance. And then of course I say, if you don't have a place to stay, then you will be able to get housing. So, but like I said, I don't know how Europe does it. But I was always told that Europe is even way better than the services that they offer here to mother and children in the state. But however, when you're comparing the United States with Africa, keep in mind Africa has 54 countries, some say 55, and some will even tell you 51 or 52, because some Arab countries such as Morocco, Libya, Egypt, they claim that they're not African. They claim that they're Northern African, they're white. Like, we don't know the history, like we don't know what goes on, we don't know the whitewashing. That's a story for another day. We're not even going to go through that. But we all know that's it's just like in the state. You can't say, Alaska, or you, well, perhaps Alaska and Hawaii. Yeah, they can claim that they were not part of the United States, but because they were, and also it's a different tribes, different group of people in those areas. You know, before the European come and of course, you know, rush the Hawaiian people out. You know, they were looking like Asian, and then of course the Alaska and all of that. So that story is for another day. You know, we don't want to go through that right now. But anyway, I don't want to lose you guys. So I don't know exactly. You know, of course, I don't know exactly how it is done in Europe, but in the States. But in the state, you do get those services, but not as much as in Europe. But in Africa, whether the 54, 55, or 52 state, however, you know, whoever's counted it, however it's counted, you don't get those services per the African that I know, and per several documentaries that I've been, you know, following. You don't get any of those services. Your social services are your neighbors. People that I mean, if you have if you had a tragic story and people that don't know you come out and reach out to you, you don't have those kind of social services. You see what I'm saying? And in South America, again, the same thing. South America, the same thing. You don't have those kind of social services. Those kind of services, you get them through neighbors, friends, and family. In the Caribbean, again, same thing. You don't have any government assistance, any government help when you are in childbearing age and you're you know, you of course you're having kids. I don't want to say reckless, because you know, to me, having a child is way better than having an abortion. You know, having a child is way better than just, you know, having an abortion. You know, I don't want to use reckless, but I would say unfortunate. When you have kids in those unfortunate situations, you know, you don't have no assistant. So I would say the luxury, the poverty in the United States is a luxury, and compare to poverty in those third world countries. Because if you have 2-3 kids and you have 24-hour electricity, even the well-to-do in the third world country don't have 24-hour electricity. They have to run their house on generator. The average well-to-do folks. I know the average well-to-do folks in Haiti, and the Caribbean, and Jamaica, okay, in the Caribbean and South America, most South America, not all, majority of them, and of course some in Africa, they have to run the house. They have to have other source of power, because the government electricity company, they certain time of the day, they just cut them off. They just go total blackouts. But because they're a middle class, or they're able to afford another source of power, they, you know, of course have it. But the average that don't have that kind of means, they are in blackouts. So in the United States, poverty in the United States, in comparison to poverty in the third world country, is a luxury. It's a luxury. You have the housing. I'm referring to mother and children. Okay? You have the housing. You have 24-hour electricity. They might cut the check that they were gonna give you $200, $300, $400, $500 for 2-3 kids, but yet you got the food stamp. Okay? And you can't find a job, and most of the time government assists you on giving you daycare. And you have daycare if you qualify. They can help you with that. 24-hour electricity. And when you go into the housing in the United States, it has it's essential in the house. Refrigerator, they always give you your housing with refrigerator, a stove, a dishwasher, tool sink, a bathroom, a tub, a sink. Okay, so pretty much luxury in the United States, poverty in the United States is luxury in comparison to the third world country. We cannot compare poverty in the state to the third world country. So that's why when a migrant leave the third world country and come to the ghetto or come to the United States and they meet 24-hour electricity and they meet a well-furnished house and they meet going to school for free as far as elementary, middle school, and high school, and for college you can get loan, which is something that you can, there's no way of doing that in the third world. There's no way of doing that in Haiti, in Jamaica, in the Caribbean, and South America, for the most part, in Africa. So that's why when they come here, their focus is to be successful, because they feel like if the government is paying all that for me, I got to bypass it. Keep in mind, a lot of them, when they were coming in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, they met every single obstacle that was for black people. They met all of that. They met police brutality. They met police brutality. Okay? They met police brutality. They met redlining. They met Jim Crow. Yes, they were here doing Jim Crow. Well, even if Jim Crow was wrapping up, but they still met Jim Crow. Because I know many Caribbean that will tell you, yes, they lived through Jim Crow. They lived through redlining. They lived through the mass incarceration in the 90s. They lived through the crack epidemic. Because I know many Caribbean people that got victimized in the crack epidemic. And I know many Caribbean that suffered the mass incarceration. They met Y2K. They met everything in the process of living in the United States. But what I'm pointing out is we need to stop differentiating one another. We need to stop finding reason to find why such and such was dropped and such both stopped. We're not related. Our struggles are not the same. We need to stop that. We need to come together as one. We're going to have different mindset. We're going to have different agenda. We're going to see things differently. But at the end of the day, we need to know that we only have one common enemy. And at the end of the day, we need to know that our unity is the biggest strength. Our unity is the biggest weapon against them. Our falling apart is the biggest strength. So we need to get ourselves together, and so that we can have that one mighty, powerful black nation globally. Because I tell you, anything that happens to any Chinese anywhere right now in 2019, trust me, the Chinese government gonna contact the government of that nation. And if you think I'm lying, my dear brothers and sisters, look it up and research it. The Indians from India, they were trying the Chinese. The Chinese government contacted the government of India ASAP. And let me tell you, they got themselves straightened out. The Chinese, Saudi Arabia Look that up on YouTube. Saudi Arabia was attacking the Chinese and Saudi Arabia. Well, they were doing the Philippines, black, everybody. They were doing them dirty. Well, guess what? Out of all those nations, the Philippine president didn't say anything. They just want to go get their people. The African, you know, they barely, a lot of them committed suicide. A lot of them died. You know, a lot of them killed themselves, and a lot of them died from because they killed them. They killed them and even buried them in the back of the yard. Okay? Later on, they find out when the police were and dig behind the yard, they found out, you know, of their remains. But guess who? Guess who? Guess what country came to speak on behalf of its people? The Chinese. The Chinese. They faced them Saudi Arabian people. They were like, Why? Because right now, whether you accept it, whether you want it or not, China is a super power. And let me tell you something, my dear brothers and sisters. China is not going back to that poverty that it went to in 1945. 45 years ago. 45 years ago, the poverty that China was in, okay, how the UN forces China to, you know, do something about the population, and they start, you know, doing that one-child labor and start, and that was, listen, this documentary, you guys need to watch this documentary. It's crazy. They would kidnap this woman in their home and go give them like live abortion if they don't want to. They would sedate them to abort the baby out. Trust me, the dirt that the Europeans have forced onto the Chinese people, they live horrible nightmare of it. They've lived horrible nightmare of it. And they swear on their mother grave. The Chinese swear on their mother grave over their dead body that they will be going back to that poverty. So they're like, they say, Europe, America, I am not going to be your middleman anymore. So they made a smart move. What they did was, they know whoever controls Africa controls the world, rules the world. So now they hop on Africa's back. And Africa's government better be very aggressive, very vigilant, so that China and other nations will team up and rule Africa. But right now, China don't want to go back. But like I said, any Chinese anywhere right now, anything happen to them, the Chinese government gonna come and want to find out. So that's why we need to have unity among us. That's why we need to stop letting both stop differentiators. If immigrant come to the United States, Caribbean immigrant, African immigrant, if they come here and become successful, it's because they know what true dirt poverty is. And that's all. That's all. And that's the only reason. It's because they know what is true dirt poverty. They live the last bottom of the bottom of the bottom barrel. Okay? They know what is true poverty. So that's why when they come here, they're trying to make, not only here in Europe, everywhere else, they're trying to make the best out of it. So that's why they become successful. So when you're going around saying that African don't like black American, no. They just feel like, how come I thrive and you fail to thrive? A lot of them live every single thing that you're thinking about. They live the redlining. They live the mass incarceration. They live the crack epidemic. They live the Jim Crow. A lot of them have lived it. And they come here. They make an effort. And they become successful. You see what I'm saying? So we need to put all this bias, foolishness on the side, and so we can unite so that we can, you know, be very strong and very powerful. And Africa needs you. Africa needs you. You got so many wealth that is waiting for you. And right now, if you're a citizen of Africa, you can be part of government. How about that? How about that? Thank you so much for watching this video. You guys know how I am. You guys know that I talk very loud and sometimes I can get very aggressive. But It's because I'm very passionate about it. I'm very passionate about my people. I want my Black American, my Caribbean, my African, my Pacific. I want us to be one. Black don't crack and die. Black don't crack and die, but black multiply. Black don't crack and die. Black don't crack and die. Black multiply. Black don't crack and die. Black don't crack and die. Black multiply.